What's up, everybody? It's your boy Marvin Melendez. You're listening to All My Friends Talk podcast, where I interview all my creative artists, advocates, and just around amazing friends. This particular episode is actually pre-recorded. It's a conversation I had with Ryan Galloway. This is part two. So if you haven't listened to part one, go ahead and listen to it now, and come back to this episode. It's a conversation we had about Ryan Galloway's new song, Ahmaud Arbery, about the young man who was tragically murdered, going through the jog in his neighborhood. I really encourage everyone to listen to it. It's a great discussion on current climate that we're seeing right now in our country and just really all around the world. So yeah, go ahead, give it a listen. If you haven't listened to part one yet, go ahead and do that. Come back to this and hope that you guys enjoy this. Thanks.
I I remember like 5 or 6 years ago. I grew up listening to hip hop. Like that was always my genre.
Yeah.
But like I always thought like the artists I was listening to, I just came from a very different background. So they would talk about certain things. And sometimes I wouldn't believe it, but I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between believing and understanding.
Yeah.
So I think I believed everything that these artists were saying, but I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
And then I think like when I heard about Trayvon Martin or even Michael Brown, in Michigan, there's a part of me that's like there was a small part of me that's like, well, like we're just pointing out one instance, and then but then when Eric Garner died, and I watched the video, and then I watched the video and I remember thinking, okay, yeah, that's wrong. Like here's a chance so everybody can be right. And like, look, like obviously the systematic racism that people talk about doesn't exist because clearly what they did is wrong. They're gonna go to jail,
Right?
And they didn't even get past the grand jury, right?
Yeah.
And it clicked, and then, but not only that, like that's not like that was a heart shift for me.
Yeah.
But the reality is what changed me, and I even wrote. I don't even know if I ever told you this. I wrote about this in one of my poems, where I saw you on Facebook, and Ryan, like, I mean, me, you've known each other a long time, but that was and you've been mad at me before, you come down hard on me more than one occasion,
I mean, to be fair, you've tried to do some foolish things in your life, and
there's no argument that you weren't justified when you're angry with me. But speaking of justified anger, I had never seen you so outraged about anything. You were outraged, And so I wrote down in one of my poems that I still do to this day, and I said, I see mother weeping all over the news, and I see my friends grieve for someone they never knew. And now I don't know what to do.
Dude, you're going to make me cry. That's crazy. Yeah.
And Ryan, like talking to you, and I'm watching the news, I'm listening to Dave Chappelle's special, and
Yeah.
And the reality is that like I'm not in politics, I'm not a lawmaker. I don't know what to do. And so when I talk to I watch you on social media, I've had other black friends on social media that says like, hey, your opening line was like, we're tired, like you're just tired. And I'm watching, I had one black friend, out of her respect, I won't say her name, but she just like, some of my white friends, stop texting, stop calling. Like I can't, like, and whenever something like this happens, she talked about how she would always get all these texts like, hey, what do you want me to do for you? Like, how can I be help? How can I be here with you? And she's just like, for now, just stop calling me. I can't do it right now.
Yeah.
And so the reality is, like, me to you, right? I'm not even talking about what you want all the white people to do. Like, I'm Puerto Rican, to be clear.
Right.
But, like, the reality is my skin tone is much, much whiter than even a lot of my Puerto Rican friends,
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do. I don't know. And it's not, and you said something that's like, it's not on the burden of proof for me to show white people. And I agree with that. But the reality is this, Ryan, it's that, like let's say everyone agreed with you, right? Which obviously we don't. Like,
right. Yeah.
And man, there's so many questions to have.
Yeah.
But like, start off with like, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't know what to do. And it's not that I don't want to do anything. And it's awkward because like you hear like, oh, silence is violence. I'm like, well, shit, what am I going to post on social media this week? I don't know what to do, guys. I don't know what to post. I'm freaking out here. So I'm going to tell me what the answer, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay. And I hate when people take selfies at a rally, you know, because I was like, I want to say like, hey, I'm not a racist, click, right? But the reality is this, is that like, okay, well, I don't want to brag that I'm at a rally, but I also want everybody to know, like, I'm not racist. I'm here with what.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll tell you this. I think that what I want, because I can only speak for me, what I want is for people to care. You know, the reason why I wrote the song is because I was tired of watching people philosophize about Black lives. Like, if you can have a 3-day long multi-thread debate about the justification for someone getting gunned down for jogging through a neighborhood, but you don't feel their humanity, you don't feel the fact that this American citizen just got gunned down. There was no trial. It was just judge, jury, executioner on the spot. Like, if you can't feel that, then get off of Facebook. Stop posting in comment sections. And I think what I want is for people, there's a lot of things that need to happen moving forward. But before we hop on and become keyboard warriors, imagine if it was your son. Imagine if it was your brother. Imagine if it was your mom. Imagine if it was your dad. You know, I love my dad. My dad is very ornery. You know, he's just an angry dude. And I remember when I saw Eric Garner get choked out, and this man is pleading, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And like, as a normal human being, if I'm restraining someone, they're saying I can't breathe, there was like 11 cops there. I'm like, yeah, y'all got this situation on lock. The fact that there was some sort of disconnect, whether it's just like, oh, he's a criminal, he's just trying to get out of whatever. It's like, before that man was a criminal, and I'm not saying that he was, you know, I think the idea of like, someone makes a bad decision and their identity becomes criminal. One, it's just antithetical to the gospel. It's so funny, like Christians be out here talking about like, no, Paul wasn't a murderer. Paul went on to write 2/3 of the New Testament, and you know, he was the greatest evangelist outside of Jesus and blah, blah, blah. No, Paul was a murderer, y'all. By your standards for the way that Black people are, because obviously, like, I remember when Botham Jean got killed in his apartment, and that white female cop walked into his apartment, thought it was her apartment, and shot this man. The headline that I saw was, I think the second headline that I saw after that was talking about how the man had smoked marijuana. I was like, so now he deserves to die because he smoked some weed? Oh my freaking good! Like, if that is not like an example of how Black people are systemically dehumanized in our country, like, I don't know what is. You know what I mean? Like, this man was in his own house. And the way that the media was already trying to build a case of sympathy for this white woman and her tears. And I didn't follow the case. Again, I told you, I just don't be engaging with stuff like this. I'm like, look, obviously there's not enough outrage for this to change. And so, but I just remember taking a mental snapshot of that. And it was just horrifying to me. So what, I'll tell you what I want, and I'll try to give you an educated guess on what other people want. I want you to care. I want people to hear about these people getting shot. And yes, statistically, I'm more likely to be hurt in a car accident than I am to have a life or death encounter with a police officer. However, I would also like to point out to white America, white people are way more likely to be in a plane crash than they are to encounter a radical Islamic terrorism. And all I see, I remember for years, all I saw on Fox News was Islamic terror. It's going to, you know, the existential threat to the United States and all this kind of stuff. And the statistical probability of encountering a terrorist was so low. But then it's crazy. It's crazy how we take our fears as a culture and we justify them because no, this is valid. But then we listen to another culture. I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's fear over radical Islamic terror. I'm like, hey, if it's a fear, it's a fear. Let's try to work through this. Let's try to dialogue, whatever. But it has been infuriating for white brothers and sisters, specifically Christian brothers and sisters, because I expect more of them to try to tell me that I'm not allowed to be afraid or that I'm not allowed to have a concern for my children. When we're seeing, really the only thing that's changed in the last 4 to 5 years is that we have cell phones now. But we've been saying this for 50 years, for 100 years. Hey, we're not being treated right. You know, I mean, let's not even get into the history of it. So all that to say,
yeah,
I want people to care. I want people to see us as humans. I want people to know, yes, there are Black people who have done bad things, just like there are white people who have done bad things. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof shot up a church full of Black people, and they took this man to McDonald's on their way to the station. You're telling me that a man who's drunk in a drive-thru can't survive an encounter with a police officer? Like, for real? Like stuff like that is just so infuriating, you know? So all that to say, I want people to care. Now, what other Black people want, I think, again, everyone wants different things. I'll tell you, I've been very encouraged by white brothers and sisters reaching out and being like, hey man, I'm with you. What do you want? If people are reaching out to me and like, hey man, like, what do you want me to do? I'll just be like, I don't know, bro. Go. I feel like if you can care, you'll do something that matters. You know what I mean? So like you mentioned, like, you know, I don't want to be performing. I don't want to be a part of like performative wokeness and just be like, you know, snapshot of like, I'm at the rally. I'm not a racist. Like, truthfully, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe for some people, it's like, maybe you need to go march. I think all of us need to demand more from our politicians, including being up on local politics. A lot of this stuff happens at the local level, and we are asleep at the wheel. We're freaking out so much about, you know, if you're a conservative, it was like, you know, President Obama and just the state of the world, just this meltdown of you know, conservative values or whatever. And then if it's Donald Trump, you know, there are liberals who are just like, whatever. It's like, bro, most of the stuff that affects you has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It happens to do with your local politics. So I think what we can all do, be better informed, you know, because I think if it doesn't matter for you, it matters for me, you know, like it matters for my kids. Like, let's be more informed. Let's vote in our elections. Let's hold our politicians' feet to the fire. Let's demand accountability. Let's ask for police reform. Let's demand police reform. Of course, not every cop is bad, just like not every Black person is bad. Hello.
Hey.
You know, and like I hear, you know, white people saying stuff like, well, what about the problems in the Black community? Like, listen, Black people will address the problems in Black community. Do you want to know why you haven't heard about it? Because it's not a conversation for you. We have those conversations amongst ourselves. Like, I had a friend I was talking to and he was like, what about Chicago and the violence happening there? I was like, please tell me, in all of your viewing of Fox News, have you ever seen any of the Stop the Violence protests that have happened in Chicago by Black people in their own neighborhoods? He's like, oh, they have like rallies and protests about that? I was like, bro, all the time. They just don't get covered. So again, that's a conversation that we'll have. But what I want you to do, I want you to handle what you can handle. Ask for police accountability. You know what I mean? Like, ask for, you know, let's like get informed. Ask Google, what is redlining? What is the school to prison pipeline? What is the prison industrial complex? You know, like it's one of those things where it's like, to me, I feel like the beginning level of any of that stuff is to care. And then from there, it's all sorts of things. Now, I'll tell you, it just depends on who you're talking to. I like when people reach out to me. If I'm not feeling like talking, I'll just say, hey, I don't want to talk. I've seen a lot of posts from Black people like, stop asking us what we want. And I feel that I get the energy. I feel like right now, the way I felt, and people might come for me in the comment section, and I'm just like, whatever, man. Do what you gotta do. I'm just like, I feel like, and it's not that we need white people to be our saviors, because like we don't, but we need their help. And I think like it is, I'll be honest, it is frustrating when someone like, it's taken them 6 years and now they're like, oh, I get it. You're saying Black Lives Matter too, not only. I'm like, bro.
So wait, now pause real quick.
So
I know, I mean, we are over on time. If you don't mind, I have.
True. Go.
No. So this is something I really am confused about. And if we go to line, I might release this in 2 parts. But I don't know where I'm allowed to be angry at. Like, I don't know. As far as reactions. And this is what I mean. So, I just feel like a sense of burning rage when I watched the George Floyd and when I watched, Ahmaud Arbery. Like I felt so much rage. But then I found myself getting upset at certain things. So, let's say, and right now a real popular one is Lady Antebellum. I don't know. Do you know who they are?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Have you heard about this?
Their name, Lady A, right?
To Lady A, right? And the response was, that we didn't realize the historical significance of antebellum, right? Or when people, I don't know, I've seen even more recent conversations. Oh my gosh, I already know I'm gonna get some smoke for this, but
do it.
Oh gosh, but like I already like. When people want to go visit plantations to see the architecture.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of tours don't talk about like what it was used for and why it was there. Right. So, and now they're like saying like, oh man, like we need to revamp these things. I'm like, guys, like, but this has been talked about for years. Like this. And like I get mad. I was like, Lady Antebellum, you made a career off of this name. Like, did you not think to Google it? Did you not think to you guys want to go tour like certain fields or like be so proud of or people like our NASCAR's like, okay, we realize that the Confederate flag has some people upset, so we're gonna like, what do you mean? Like you're just not figuring this out? Like we've been saying the same thing for years, and sometimes I worry like if it wasn't since it's a hot topic now, right? Like I mean, there was 4 or 5 years ago where it was a real hot topic. Then once Colin Kaepernick got kicked out of the NFL, we all kind of just stopped talking about it for a little while. Like it'll pop up every now and again for a week. I mean, even when I texted you to come on this podcast, I intentionally wanted to schedule it this far out because I really thought the news cycle would have died out by now. But then there's more instances that went viral.
The protests have been crazy. Yeah, people are not letting it go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so the protests I'm fine with of not letting it go. But then as far as the certain
I meant crazy, by the way, as in like I have been surprised that like people have stayed with this level of righteous anger. And of course, no one wants rioting and looting. Stop asking stupid questions. Of course, that's so dumb, but like, right. I have been really surprised. I think it's crazy. I'm like, oh wow, like this is a moment. Like this is a cultural moment. This is a moment of pivoting as a society, which is cool.
Do you worry about like what I just said, like with the Lady Antebellums or touring like certain Southern historic memories, right? That now we realize, oh, that represented slavery. Maybe we shouldn't glorify them the way we did. Do you worry that it's just an emotional reaction versus like an actual systemic change?
I think there's always that. There's always that propensity to just be caught up in the like, oh my gosh, the people are so enraged. I'll tell you what I think it begins at people caring. And then my hope is that it will go deeper than just, I hope this person doesn't get mad at me for 2 weeks on Facebook. I'm praying that it becomes like an actual self-examination. To me, like something like Lady Antebellum, one, I don't listen to their music. So I don't actually care. I'm not a NASCAR fan. So I don't actually, like if it doesn't bother me, like to me, I'm like, well, duh. Like, because but again,
don't think this the wrong way. It's like, The people who you heard of the Confederate flag NASCAR, are they watching NASCAR? Like, is that? That's just my opinion.
They do have a black driver though. They do have a black driver who like he drove a Black Lives Matter car and all kinds of stuff. So I was like, you know, more power to this beautiful black man who is in this predominantly white space. But I still have to say, so I think that any movement towards acknowledging the really ugly history of race, of acknowledging America's original sin of racism and slavery, of even if it's just performative wokeness, even if it's just because right now, you know, brands are cashing in on being. To me, I'm like, yeah, but that's better than nothing. So that my stance is like, even if someone's doing it for wrong, I saw today that Aunt Jemima Syrup is changing their name. I'm like, okay, I didn't know it was that deep, but okay. But you know what? Aunt Jemima, change your name. You know what I mean? Like, granted, I knew about the history of like the stereotype of like the black mammy and like, you know, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And even over the years, they have modified their logo and different things. But like, now's a moment where they're like, hey, we're just, so like, to me, I'm like, maybe they have actual black people in their boardroom who have been having these conversations for years. And now that we're at like a societal tipping point, it's just now catching. I don't know. I don't really know. I think it's on us to demand more of the people. You know, it's like, I know a lot of people are upset. They're like, why are we changing names and all this kind of stuff, as in like it's history. But even if you examine the history, like even something, and this is not going to be a history lesson, I promise. I'm going to keep this to a minute. No, I'm going to put it on my phone right now. But like even the history, even the history of like the Confederacy, a lot of that stuff came from like the 1930s. It wasn't like after the Civil War, you know, there were a bunch of these statues that were erected. It was like some of this stuff was as recently as like the 1950s and the 60s. You know, a lot of these Confederate monuments came about during that time by a group called the United Daughters of the Confederacy that literally rewrote history on what the Civil War was about, on what the Confederacy stood for. And so it's crazy to me because I'm now looking at like it as someone who studies history, as someone who like, I'm just a nerd in general. So I just like to know these things. But it's really fully, wholly possible that Lady Antebellum did not get that the antebellum period of time, the pre-Civil War period of time, you know, like I remember I was reading a post that someone was talking about the Confederate flag and defending the Confederate flag, and it's like, it's about heritage, not about hate. I'm like, what sort of heritage? Like Southern heritage. I'm like, so are Black people considered Southern? Because what about Black people's Southern heritage? We don't get a flag. That flag stood for the wholesale domination and dehumanization of Black bodies for the profit and benefit of white people. So again, people might come for you in the comment section. I don't know who listens to this podcast, but it's really impressive to me. It's like,
not good.
We have some quiet comments. That's totally fine. I'm totally fine with that. I'm glad with people not being mad at me. Let's be real, I don't care. But I think that the issue really is, it's like a lot of people were lied to. Like they were sold a bill of goods that were false. They were fake. They were told that the Confederacy, the issue with the Civil War was about states' rights. The states' rights to what? To own slaves, to dehumanize Black people. And it's crazy to me that in 2020, I'm still having intellectual, and I say intellectual in quotes because it's not an intellectual discussion. It's one of those discussions where you're talking to people who have literally been indoctrinated into an idea that like, no, it wasn't about that. It's about honor. It's about, you know, I had someone tell me that the Confederate flag represents, you know, it represents genteel culture, it represents honor and reverence for God. I was like, let me tell you, if that was true, that'd be amazing. But I have seen the transcripts of the Confederate generals, of the Confederate president, I have read these transcripts. I have seen these things. And so it's very possible that Lady Antebellum didn't know. It's very possible that like people in NASCAR didn't know. It's very possible that these things, because a lot of people are just now, because of the sheer weight of these protests, the sheer weight of the anger that's mounted about the ignorance, you know, the fact that Black voices have been ignored and silenced for all this time. Like, there are now a lot of white people who are like, oh, maybe we should do our homework. And so for me, I'm like, you know what? Are people late to the party? 100%. But this has to be an us thing. It can't be a Black people thing. Obviously, it can't be a Black people thing because people didn't listen to us. It has to be an us thing. Like, I think we can direct, you know, Black people can direct people's attention to where the injustice is particularly egregious. But we need the entire society to help us dismantle it. And I think, I know there are a lot of white people who are upset about, like, don't take down the monuments, you know, don't remove our history. It's like, listen, in Germany, after the Holocaust, Germany acknowledged what they did to Jewish people. And it wasn't just Jewish people, by the way. It was any sort of people in society. You know, there were gypsies, homosexuals, people with any sort of disabilities that were rounded up and gassed and killed, and it was awful. But what Germany did was Germany acknowledged it, and you can go to a history museum and see Nazi paraphernalia, but they are not putting it on their street corners. They're not putting it in their state houses. Like, they're not making a grand show of racism and genocide and murder. And it's crazy to me that in 2020, we are still having people talk about, you're erasing history. It's like, you want history? Go to a museum. We do not need to make a hero out of Confederate generals who wanted to dehumanize and own Black people. Like if for you, that to you is the history that you want to celebrate and laud, I don't want any part of that. And at this point in history, and I know some people are gonna get mad about this, but look, you want your history, go to a museum. But like, I don't want my kid going to a school named after a Confederate racist. Like, I don't want that. And it's time that we change that. And you know what, if that makes you mad, I'm sorry, but welcome to the way that we feel. You know, Black people have been mad in this country forever because we are being told to look up to and idolize and try to mimic the legacy of people who didn't even view us as worthy of being in the same spaces. And so, you know, I'm kind of here for the anger. I'm here for it because I think, like, okay, you're uncomfortable, good. We are too. So let's have a conversation and figure out where we can go from there.
Yeah. Right. Man. Bro, I don't even know what to say, man.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss for words. For those who are listening to the audio and not watching the video, you'll see there's not a lag in this video. Just honestly, thank you, bro. Honestly, for the bottom of my heart, man. You know, and I've often called you when I'm just in an emotional crisis, you know? And it's so the fact that you're dealing with your own emotional crisis and you took the time and sit down with me and just educate me and just let me get a real glimpse into your world and your view. I honestly had like only 2 or 3 questions written down, and I didn't even use those.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna stop writing questions for this podcast. Nobody cares, and I'm gonna stop saying I have questions in podcasts. Nobody cares.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, we've been friends for so long. We can just kind of go, you know, spitball off of each other. But dude, I mean, it means the world. It's not even about like, it's not even about, you know, posting on social media and being like, you know, I care or whatever. To me, it really is about like, it's such an isolating experience to feel like you're the only one that cares, you know, like to know that like you have a concern that people don't take seriously. So like, even, you know, even I know it's kind of like ranting a little bit, but even just watching your emotion, you know, I remember reading this book a while ago that was like, tears are liquid sincerity. And like, it just means a lot that like, it's more than you care. Like it's such a deeply troubling thing for you. And for all the tears that I've cried over this thing, it's wonderful to look up and see a brother who's like, bro, I feel you. My heart is equally burdened. I don't know what to do. It's okay, by the way, to not know what to do. It's okay, by the way, to not have all the right answers. Because truthfully, even as a Black man, you know, like there was a protest here and we had a bunch of friends like, are you going to go? But it was the first weekend in like 8 months where we had someone take our kids. And I was like, no, I'm sleeping in because I'm tired. I'm tired and I got kids. Like I get the movement will not be stopped, but like I gotta raise these babies tomorrow. And if I go to this thing today on the only day that I can like rest my body, you know, these kids might not survive. So like I get it. Like I don't know the right things to do. And you know, I'm not always, you know, I'm not posting a lot on social media. You know, I've signed some petitions here and there. I haven't done a lot of calling of elected officials. We'll figure it out and we'll get there together. But what's important is that we know that you're with us, and that can take a lot of forms. And it just means a lot that you care. So thanks, bro.
So, well, Ryan, before you go, if you can plug where they can find you / where they can listen to your music.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm on all of the major streaming platforms. So, Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify. I think the song should be hitting like Tidal and some of these other places, but it should be everywhere within the next like 2 to 3 weeks. The song is called Ahmaud Arbery, and it's just a really honest prayer from a Black dad, i.e. me, followed by a prayer. If any of you guys know Joel Romulus, that is the homie right there. Just brought the fire with a prayer at the end on the track. And so you can find me on those things. I have a YouTube channel that might be linked on my Facebook page. You can find me on Facebook at Ryan Galloway Music or something. I don't know. But yeah, just look up Ryan Galloway. I'm the Black dude with a white passing wife, but with a Puerto Rican wife and the cute little Puerto Rican Black-Rican babies. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
you know, they're getting big now. But yeah, you know, just hit me up and find me and you know, whatever.
So just to make one quick distinction, we are recording this on June 17th. This will more than likely be released on Tuesday, June 23rd. So the reason why I say that to the public is when Ryan says within 2 to 3 weeks, he's referencing the recording date, not the release date. So I'll make sure to leave a link to YouTube clip for the song on my platforms as well. You guys can find me on Instagram at theonlymarvingm. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please drop a comment. If you're mad at Ryan Galloway but you love me, please drop a comment. If you love Ryan Galloway but you hate me, shut up. I don't want to hear from you. And anyways, like, comment, subscribe. We love you guys. Peace out.
Yep.